All right, so I'm going to quickly hand this over to Eric. Tonight's workshop is going to be a workshop, so those remote, you can play along at home. Next month, we're targeting, the date's still set, but next month we're going to have a cloud-based talk. So it's sort of a Java-based PaaS up there. The cloud, so you can deploy all your JBoss apps in there, if you will, as well. So that's the target for October. In November, we're going to have a JBoss operations talk, network talk. Those are both, just keep an eye out on the meetup site. Those are both be out there. So after that, I'm turning over to Eric, and the floor is his.
Okay. So I'm the Eric, right? The one you guys invited for this talk. I'm a JBoss technology evangelist. I spent 3 years doing SA work, so that's how we got into that discussion. Before I started doing this, and I'm one of 4 now, and my focus is on just the BRMS product and the BPM suite. And what I have in front of you today is a workshop, something that I released over 17 weeks the last year, so a week at a time, not always right after each other. Sometimes I got too busy to get back to it, but roughly probably a good 6-month period for the first one. So you're going to see lab numbers that go from 1 to 10 for the BRMS section, and from 11 to 17. It just has to do with that release cycle I was doing. It doesn't mean anything about what order you need to do it. I put a couple of slides together. These things are online. If you look really close here, you're going to see, show on the TV. You're going to see BPM workshop-on-the.redhatcloud.com/workshops. You go there, you can follow along with these slides. I've also included my Twitter thing, and somewhere in every single one of these slides is my email address also. My spam has been going up and up and up and up because it's on the internet, but it's worth it to put all this stuff out there. I have a blog here. Almost everything I have goes to planetjboss.org. So that's the feed from JBoss itself, so you'll see it go by there. It's also linked to both of these product pages at the bottom in what we call the buzz section. So that's like a live feed of everything I'm publishing. I pretty much put something 2 to 3 times at least a week out. I'm quite active. I have a lot of stuff going on. I have a lot of contacts and network. It's not just my stuff. It's also stuff I encounter. So, for example, an SA has done something neat. He says, they know now inside of Red Hat what I do. So the JBoss guys will be like, hey, I got something cool, let's just dump it over on me, and I get to make it pretty and make it nice and put it in a repeatable format and stuff like that. So today we're going to be looking at rules, events, and processes. This is a bit of the outline of what I try to do with this. This could be anything from a half day to a day to whatever you want to make this, and go into more and more detail. We only have an hour and a half, 2 hours for these kind of sessions, so I like to get you started as fast as possible. This is online. You can look at later if you like, or I can walk through it now if you feel there's a need for it. That's going to burn up at least 30 minutes, so I might not want to do that now. I'm going to mention a little bit about the starter kits, and there's links built into this presentation to get you to a bunch of demos. And then the workshop follows on, and you get to choose which one you like. So this red stuff here, this is the, this is a link here, getting started. Just a real quick jump to it. And you see, this is from my primer series. So this is primer paint on the wall. This is for people who know absolutely nothing. It's also something that I bring to a university several times a year in Holland and give lectures with business rules guys that are doing stuff like this. Talks about what a BRMS is, so what are rules. Talks about what events are, complex event processing. Covers lightly what processes are, what BPM, how to position that. Goes into the architecture of that stuff. Just kind of walks through all this stuff. We can come back to that, or you can just do that on your own in the workshop. So that was like the lab 1 of the workshop way back there. We have here 2 starter kits, one for the BRMS and one for the BPM suite. And underneath them, I have links to all these various demo projects. If we take, for example, the BPM and tasks and go look at it, it's taking you to what you're going to build. And shows you how to do this locally. It includes a link to a video that shows it all running. This is a really complete demo. Most of mine get to this stage fairly quickly. Some may not have a video yet, but I'm working on it. I've produced quite a few demos the last month or 2. But the idea being you can install this locally yourself. Now, what I gave you on the sticks, or if you don't have the sticks yet, you get them, is a zip version of an install demo. And that demo just installs an empty instance of BRMS or an empty setup of BPM suite. So they're meant to be used with the lab you're going to be doing to actually build something. If you do this, inside what you unzip in the installs directory are the products that work on all these. You can also just flip them over. Just follow the how-to. They're really straightforward. They're all
using 8080 port?
all of them, yeah. And if it's a dual, I've got it so far now. If I do like a multiple product demo, some of those are in there with Fuse or with Fuse Service Works. I'll do the BPM or the VRMS with a port offset of 100. It's all documented. Really straightforward. You unzip this project, you add the products to the install directory, and you run it. Init sh or init bat. Right? It's a bat file for the Windows people. I have to say, I mean, I have no possibilities to test the bat files. I have asked somebody to create them, and they evolve a bit by me over time when I add new comments and stuff. So if something doesn't work, please let me know. A patch would be great if you know how to fix whatever's not working. Because I have no windows to test it. So if you see something looks stupid or it's out of line, it's just a couple of spaces or whatever, that's nice if you want to give that back. If you look at the bottom, there's also always version numbers here. See over time, 601, 602, you'll see stuff that started out with VRMS 5.3 is now on BPM Suite 6. If you're looking for a certain version, you can go back. You have access to that stuff and use those. It all works exactly the same way. The starter kits is, I actually did a webinar on these end of last month, so you can go watch that. It's detail about how to get started out of nowhere. Right now they're linked directly from my site, and we're having a discussion about that and why I do that right now. You know, we're in a big company, and it takes a little bit of time to get stuff onto the product pages, but we don't want to wait. I want to get this stuff out to you guys, right? So we do it immediately. It goes into the feed. This is going to be put on our jboss.org/product/suite site. For people that are evaluating stuff, want to get a little bit hands-on with it or whatever, and like what you're doing tonight. And so it talks about how to get started, where to find some of the information, introduces the HR workshop we're going to do tonight for the employee rewards, shows you how to get the workshop itself. I have a project for that, but we'll put it in the cloud for you on your own instance, your own account, so you can do it in your own time. You don't have to wait for me. I keep it online, but maybe you don't like that, or you're local somewhere and don't have to make that. Talks about the contents of it, and also gives you the resource collection and stuff like that, how you start it step by step. Okay? Now the next thing is either you have a choice, you can work on events, so rules, events, and rule flow. It's built into a web app. I give you the web app. You're just going to build the rules, events, process, spreadsheet, all that stuff for a cool story. Know what that is, but that's an online web shop. You put stuff into the basket and it calculates and determines shipping and decides when in the event stream fit enough and get a promo code that reduces the price or gives you free shipping or whatever it is. It does not let you submit it to buy it. That's the only thing. It's just a front end to run through the rules and show you how that works. There's a link at the bottom. What that takes you to is the very first lab to get started. The one I suggest you get started with today is the BPM. That was more of the stuff we were pushing on this side. I'll show you how that works. So, most of you have already gotten this part. They all start out with the overview of the architectural components. Now, in this case, the very first lab, we're not diving into a specific component, but later in one of these, we're going to do the data model. So you'll see a red ring around the data model, so you know what you're going to be doing before you go in to do it. In your case, I've given you this stuff already. So all you're doing is unzipping it from what I gave you. You already have the product in the installed directory. All you got to do is hit the init sh, init that, and then start the thing up. It's going to tell you on the screen to do that. Okay. It should look like that. I give you some information about how it's set up behind the screen, behind the scenes, what the various rules are, just a little bit of background on how this works, and then how to log into it. Should look like that. That's what it looks like when you log in, and we're done. That's chapter 1. So I'm having. I always put the questions here at the end. I put my stuff so you can find me here, and I also do an overview thing here with some links and stuff to play with. It's behind every single chapter. You don't have to go back and look for this. Goes right into the next one, and this is for you guys once you set it up where you're going to start. Create a new project. Tells you always with some kind of goal, what are we trying to do in this chapter. Here's the fast forward. This is also in the VRMS one, the very first getting the project set up. I give you the chance to start with everything. But maybe you're really evaluating this and don't really care about doing it by hand or front to back. So you can just go in there and the way this thing works, it allows you to clone a repository. If you're doing the lab itself, instead of cloning, we're going to create a repository. So create an empty one to start building artifacts, rules, events, processes. But what this will do is allow you to import a completed repo. So you can see what it all looks like finished. Also, if you break it or can't get it finished or can't figure it out, you can just jump to this and look at a complete project. Right? When you import it, it looks like this. See even the history of stuff I've committed and all that. It shows that's what it should look like. And then if you do it right, you got to go in there and you got to create all this stuff by hand. So we go into the administration section. We're going to manage our units. We're going to create a demo unit. See how this works. Screenshots. It's been out for a while. I've had a lot of feedback. Things that weren't clear for people for some reason, and others weren't English speakers. You know what I mean? So I get almost no feedback on this anymore in the sense of correction. So it should be pretty clear by now. Been around a while. And you're just going to go on and do this. Create a new repository. You're going to do this. I'm just zapping through because I'm going to spend a lot of time one by one doing this. And when you get to the end, you're going to have a project. There it is. So I'll show you always what it looks like, your screen in front of you before you go on to the next chapter. Slowly you're going to see items start filling in. Now we just have an empty project. There's going to be a business process. There's going to be a data model. There's going to be a couple of objects. There'll be task forms for your user tasks. Things like that are going to start growing in there. Again, the questions. Again, the links. On to the next chapter. Let's go make a data model. Okay, this is the flow of how it works. And should you have problems with your window, don't want to mess around with the installer, for some reason that bad thing isn't working out for you, reports, firewalls are getting in your way and stuff, I have 10 BPM passes set up on OpenShift. Talk to each other, who claims which one, so you're not like stepping on each other's toes, right? I leave these always online, so if you want to go back and use them again, you can. There's no guarantee someone doesn't go in there and bash them, because this is all online, which you're looking at, so the passwords are. But people, I've had nobody break them. You can come back and you'll find test 1, test 2, test 3 projects next to your project. So,
You know, like,
I can. So if you ping me, you can wipe them out. You can wipe them out. So if we go, for example, into the back one here, this one, I'll show you really quickly how this sets up. Go to the lab, and we're going to fast forward really quick. This is what I'm going to need. So, we'll take number 10 here. Ferric gas, BPM suite. And you'll notice this is exactly the same as the local. There's absolutely no difference between what you're using there. We go to administration. You can see this is the help screen. Get rid of that or look through the help stuff. Okay, there's nothing in here. It's brand new. Organizational units. This is the first thing you're going to do. You're going to add demos. So with that, I can now clone a repository. You're going to create a new one. And that's all I got to do. Clone it in. Which means he's now creating a copy locally, exactly like you saw. When you go out like this, you see that it lists all the repos that are in here. So if there's a test 1, test 2, test 3, and all this other garbage, and the rewards one, you can just delete it here by hitting this button. Okay. We'll do that in a second because I'm going to show you what you're going to create. It's going to want me to log out. Yep. Should be doing this in Firefox. That's the supported browser. I'm done. It usually works all wonderful in Chrome. There was at one point a Chrome version that didn't support part of the UI GWT correctly. I think all haywire, and the left window disappeared or something like that. So, okay, it's starting up our process designer. So here's the process you're going to build. This is done, colorized, beautiful, everything's ready to go. Forms that we've generated. We need a start form. That's this one. We need an awards task. That's this one. If we look at these things, they have an embedded object from our data model. If you look here, these are individual fields. So we have an employee object and we have an award object. The employee, we just take the individual fields, but to do an embedded subform, one of the things I'm trying to show you in this demo, get asked a lot about that. See here we have an embedded complete award object inside the form. So that requires that it be implemented as an object like with attributes. If you're a programmer, that's the same idea. So you create a subform and you're going to reference that subform. So in the form itself, at a certain point in time when you're designing this, you're going to see that we're attaching a simple subform instead of an attribute or an actual object piece. And so like, which one do you want to use? I want to use the award form. So this is going to be important to hear. When you run this, you're supposed to see read-only data. See, it's read-only. All four of these fields are supposed to be read-only, and there's a proof thing here. Is it too small for you guys? I can make it. Yeah, okay. Oops. Fitting my screen very well, but so all these are supposed to be read-only data. So you've submitted at the front an employee, and out of the employee, we're filling the award with data, finding out the amount and the explanation. Then we just approve or reject, and that is in the process. When you saw the branch, that just determines which branch we take. That's right now all it's doing. So this is the only thing I'm looking for. When you run it, you're going to see that these two things are empty. Whoops. Something in the setup isn't right. That's your extra credit if you can fix it. Right? It's built into the workshop. Don't send me emails on it. I'm not going to tell you. Okay? That's part of the deal. You gotta give it a shot, right? All right. So that's that. The form model I'll give you a quick look at. You'll notice over here that there's Java source files also, so that turns them into actual Java objects and stuff. But what's nice here is this is one of the things that they got is drag and drop. It's you create an object like this, you give an identifier, a label, attach it to whatever package you want, and then inside that object you just add an ID, a label, and some field type, including embedding your objects or lists of objects. And you're able to process those as subforms. So if your object is an expense report processing system, one of the things you have embedded in the form is a list of expense entries. So create an expense, make a list, that goes in the form as an entry. This all just turns into, and it's nice because we get to let the business or the analyst create objects and stuff, so it doesn't require the programmer to go in there and create all this garbage. Do lights generating, getters, etc. So I don't care if you got tools that spits that stuff out, you just don't like doing it, right?
You can import, like if you have existing objects.
Absolutely, absolutely. You have, that's the last thing I want to show you. If we go to the artifact repository, here you see more help screens first. And you see the ability to upload jars and stuff. So if you have existing models, you can upload. Put some on the class pad. I'm not going to run it because there's a video that'll take another 10 minutes of your time away. Video at the end of Lab 17 you can look at. I also just logged that, so that's the last thing I've added. So let's go back to what I was talking about. So if you come into this later and you're using one of these things and you want to get rid of the garbage you see in there, just go like that. You now have a clean thing again. The organizational units ought to lead the demo, so whoever uses 10 gets a free organization. There might be others. They're not getting in your way. You just need the one or something to attach your project to. Okay? I'll log out. We use the manager role, so if you go and do this someplace, be sure your tasks are getting assigned to something that has the role that you're logged in as, or usually defined that can log in with that role. Otherwise, you're never going to see your task pop up. A question I get a million times. It's there, it's just not for you. Okay? Log out. There you go. So that's the deal with that stuff. And if you choose to use one of these, go to Lab 12. That's why I provide the link here. You don't need to do the local install lab, the first one. Go to this. Okay?
Can I use 10?
You can, smart boy right there. I want to use 10. Feel free. Doesn't matter. Just to kind of tell each other which one you're using so you know it's not one.
Is the format you're just going to walk around?
Yeah, I'll be available for questions is kind of how I do it. And
I have a general question. I don't think anybody
if you think, let's do this. Does anybody want to hear the introduction presentation? I can do that while the other people just go to work. Because now I've facilitated you to start working. If you want to go do it, go do it. I can also run through that presentation.
What's that URL there? Yeah. I use number 6.
That's BPM workshop dash onda.redhat.rhcloud.com/workshop. Should I write it on the board back there maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think a couple of people came in late. If you've got that stick handy, by the way, with the download on it.
Should be laying around somewhere.
I'm not sure where it got. Oh, you have it? Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah, I got that.
How do they connect to it?
So to backtrack a little bit for the people that came in a little bit later, you get the speed version. Hi, this is me. This is what we talked about a little bit. There's an introduction presentation. There's some starter kits and some demo links you can play with and install locally yourself. On the sticks I passed around are 2 zip files. You unpack them. One of them is the BRMS install. Gives you a clean install with users ready to go with the product already in the installs directory. All these demos require that you use those products in the installs directory, so you just copy them. A little bit of demo view and then the workshop stuff I have. So this is a presentation that I can run through. But that was my question. If we can do this in a minute, I can just talk. If people want to work, and I can just talk, or let you do it on your own time, or whatever. This covers BRMS, so the business rules. I do a section on events. I do a section on processes, the architecture, how it's deployed, blah blah blah. Okay. Takes about a half hour. Otherwise. Starter kit pages you can go look at. I just did a webinar a couple weeks ago on this. This can be found on the Red Hat site about the latest webinars. These are the BPM demos, and we decided one with the business rule management system.
So how can we use this board for whatever time?
So you've unzipped them.
Yeah,
If you go inside the folder, there should be I don't get a bit in the back, but from the command line, you need to run that.
I don't know if everybody else. I got past 1. 10.
So if you run that in the back, it should install it locally. Here's a link to the workshop over from the rules, events, and rule flow, the web shop. This one is the BPM suite. All online. Anybody has any problems with installing this stuff through the consoles or doesn't want to deal with that, I also show them how to get onto the ones I provide in the cloud. Okay? That was the speed version of what I did the first half hour.
I just have,
It's all online, man.
I just have a general question.
Sure.
You know, when 6 came out, you know, we were still looking at version 5, and the documentation was kind of like mixed, and then they came out with JBoss 6.2. What is the best match now for URMS and JBoss?
The underlying.
Yeah, if I use 6.2, would that be good for the latest version?
No, these all run on 6.1.
That's what
Coming out new with the 603 shortly. I think. Should be close soon. And I think that's aligned to a 6.3. Which one? I'm not sure yet. I really haven't followed the time a little bit, so I see it go by and I have it. Just sort out how you're talking about this one because it is.
because they always they get the language of JBoss and they go, okay, can we go to that one? And
Not supported.
that's
Not
what I
saying
want
it
to make
won't
sure.
run, but. How you guys doing that?
It should be in.
Well, let me tell you.
Let's have a submission.
Okay, this is the very first time we've ever seen this.
So, shall I run through the presentation? Yeah, we'll do that. Okay.
One topic I would be interested in some links to, probably out of scope of this talk, just anything on project testing of rules that you create.
Most of the projects have that already.
They do have it still, or
Has a section of text.
it's a, okay. Okay,
Okay, so consider those like text coverage.
sure, sure.
Okay. Okay. To be honest, I mean, the actual product that before, to be honest, was a much better test suite. That's coming along. Got you first. That's the same stuff, but that more beautiful analyzing tool. Okay.
Yeah.
Both of them are 602. 6.0. Yes. I'll get a little bit into the details about what is on here. Yeah, I think so too. So let's see. So for the ones that want to get started, please do. I'm going to go ahead and start this for at least the back half of the room. So this comes from a primer series that I have. That's why the paint's here on the wall is a primer. This is your first coverage of what we're talking about. So what is a business rules management system? It doesn't matter whether this is financial or what the heck it is. This is from slides that we use as essays, so you can tailor that to anything you want. But think of it this way: we have an app. I mean, who hasn't had an app or a project you're building? And when you're not using rules, everything's inside. If-then statements, whatever the rules are being encapsulated. This logic is inside. Some kind of request or something goes into this thing, and you have something come out, or it's thrown in the garbage because you decided it wasn't a good request. You don't have a lot of visibility into what's going on. So things like it takes too long to make changes. So like in the bank where I work, I think it was twice a year you have a main cycle. So that's your window. Good luck with that. And budgeting for that stuff. People interpret the rules differently. So you've done workshops for these projects with architects and people from the business, and then you go away and write some requirements. You give it to a developer. You know that thing where we tell them to whisper something in his ear, go around the room, and what comes out here is nothing but can't come in his ear, kind of thing. But it doesn't have to be that extreme. But you know, there's a misinterpretation of how they get implemented, which means, and the great example is an actual reference case of ours from England, from a financial company called MGI, I believe. They did all their, after the crisis and stuff, they included all their stuff in rules centrally for all projects they referred to, so that there was consistency in rules that were changing weekly and monthly because they were passing the laws and making stuff more strict about what to do with these financial products. So the whole idea is separate the rules out of your application, right? You see that very clearly with the web shop example that I have. Web shop doing whatever it does, and when you have stuff you can tweak on the side, redeploy it, don't have to redeploy your application. Calling out to or scanning out to the repository of the rules, right? What this also gives you is the people that understand the rules can maintain them. That's what we go for. So whether that be a developer that you give that to, or whether a business person gets access to user interface tooling like you now see in our products. They're able to manage these rules. They have wizards with these rules. They have testing for these rules. People that know what they're tweaking can tweak it. And you also get quite a bit more agility. We did the first set in the bank I was working at, same bank, same story, with some rules. We did 3 products online when you're talking about savings products like CDs or something along those lines here. Amount of money, amount of time, and interest rate. And that changes over time. Why would you redeploy the application when you want to change it from 3% to 5%? You're going to do a 1-month sale on something, you jack it up 2%, whatever. Tweak stuff like this. You're giving them knobs and dials to play with the application. Like that. I'm not saying for you that are immediately thinking, oh my God, introduction is doing what? It doesn't work that way. You also have this deployed at test levels and at application level, or acceptance level before you get to production. But you don't have to redeploy your application, you just redeploy the tools. And hopefully we have consistency. If we're looking at a simplistic picture with just one repository where everything's at, it's all consistent. Question?
I'll throw it out there. It might be too early. We had a customer that called up, and their concern was they have an application using BPM that has teacher evaluations, and it goes all year long. They're worried about upgrades of the underlying software throughout the year. Would that affect any of the objects that are like work in progress or things that have already been stored in the repository yet may change?
I'll try to address that a little bit.
Okay.
It's a good use case. Any questions about what rules are? Yeah.
Besides these rules, is it coming from the requirements of customers or
Who designs rules?
who decides?
It could be developers or analysts or other organizations. For development people, think anytime you're talking about if, else, this, these are rules.
So it's not limited to one specific project that are organized.
Could be, yeah. And the nice part is, for example, you have a marketing department. This is something we had all over the place in our organization. You talk to a customer in the bank, they want to track the marketing. The website, the hyper service, but everything you hover on, how long you hover on that product, maybe you buy it, you hover on it, what drew his attention, that kind of stuff. That's all marketing stuff to sell more. So they have something called a customer contact moment. That was basically our touch point. Anytime you do any interaction, you need to kick off something about a contact moment. That's a rule set right there. But at one time, used all over the organization, all kinds of places. Decide what type of customer it is. Should I present this in the website or that? That kind of stuff. Just like when you go to rent a car, take a flight, you fly, you get extra stuff, nice things, bigger cars, all that kind of stuff. That's a set of rules. Reliancy is a really good one because you're talking about, I don't know, you're not allowed to have a certain combination of products, or it's got to have a basic amount of money underneath this product before you're allowed to sell it, things like that.
Are the rules basically in English then, or are they code?
They could be anything you want, actually. We have something called the domain-specific language, the DSL. Those are beautiful things for developers to create because that means you channelize a business user. When he hits a wizard, it's not having code or variable kind of stuff. It's having English language or Spanish language or domain-specific terms that have to do with their department. Really nice to have. We did this because we're working with the India team. Now, if you're doing Dutch coding in a Dutch company that has nothing to do with anything outside of Holland, you would not believe the size of variable names. We're talking about somebody, if you have joint account holders, that thing is called a mederekening account. It looks like 13 to 20 letters long, and you're over there in India and you got to like, this is part of the report, this is the business terminology in our company, so they got to type this out. I can't tell you how many spell mistakes we're causing bugs in our system and stuff. It's silly stuff like that. Did that answer the question? Okay, if that's rules, what is advanced? This is an off. Let's say something doesn't know. Complex event processing is an acronym you see in this world. So we're talking about advanced. Events are nothing but rules with time. Between point A and point B.
CDP built in the BPM stuff and
Yes.
rule stuff now? Really?
All you got to do is add temporal stuff to your rules. So between this clock moment and this clock moment, if things happen, normally you give it facts and you say at this moment in time right now, does this match? Now we're saying watch this event stream. So think of a credit card. I'm traveling now, right? I got charges in Boston, I got charges in DC, if charges within an hour show up in Tokyo, that's a physical possibility. They better pick that up and shut off my credit card.
Like American stuff.
Yeah, they all do it. Quite a lot. They actually don't do it with complex. Well, they do now, but they used to do it with artificial intelligence stuff. That was like a big thing. One of my professors was involved in that. But a much more realistic and better example nowadays is you cannot ignore your customers. I don't care what you're selling or what you're doing, you can't ignore your customers. So this is an event stream you want to monitor. Social media is a great example. People complain about your stuff on Twitter and hardly who here has not complained about something on Twitter, Facebook. I mean, these places suck. KLM, Royal Dutch Airline, where I fly with all the time, they're awesome. They'll help you if you call to get some old lady to sit behind you. That's all she can do. She can't really help you with DVDs whatsoever. If I send something on Twitter, they guarantee within an hour reaction. I've never waited longer than 10 minutes. I've rebooked flights while everybody's scrambling around trying to find a transit. Sort out something that just got canceled. I know where you're going like this. Fixing it. Okay. They'll send me a direct message with a confirmation number, and that's it. Come back, your flight's there. Go to that gate. It's awesome. I mean, if somebody says something bad about you, you want to react to it. So what are you doing? You're channeling all these things into the mainstream, doing something. Right? Okay, that's complex events. So what is a business process management system? Be aware when we talk about business process management system, this is a superset of all the things you saw. So our VRMS products contain the first two things we talked about, not contain processes. Got to go to the BPM suite to have processes, events. It's just a superset. What are we introducing? I always like to say when you hit this level, you're actually talking about how business makes money. It's at large scales usually. Talking about interactions throughout an organization, right? Not just a simple interaction, but interactions with lines of business, with maybe external parties, external systems, humans, all kinds of stuff, right? Generally, in an organization, they don't have some kind of SOA, ESB, whatever it is, to provide services to interact with those lines of businesses, or those third-party applications, whatever. Now we're just lacking consistency in our interaction with this stuff. How do you do that? You sit down and you find out what people do to interact with that stuff, and you model it out. Repeatable, consistent, agile, all this kind of stuff. Right? Measurable, beautiful. But the worst part of any process is a human being. We suck at doing stuff. It's just what it is. I hate to say that, but it's just what it is. I mean, you look at a machine, we can fully automate a process. It's called straight-through processing, STP. That's the goal in life for every people. It means we got rid of those pesky humans that get sick and they'll come back and finish their task. I have to model stuff to have timers on it because if they get sick and don't come back, I want the time out to go back in the group or reassign it to somebody else. How do I measure what you're doing? You go off to the coffee machine, come back an hour later, and then you finish it. And how much stuff did managers 10 years ago have no clue what you're doing in the job, right? Same with developers. We used to compile stuff, telling stories, compile the old stuff on the bank, and it would take 15, 20 minutes there with your coffee. No, it's not that I'm goofing off. It's just the way it was back then. Even longer ago than that, it was like taking that long just to compile code because the CPUs weren't fast enough. Now it's like, damn, you know, our EFPs are starting up in 4.2 seconds or something. It's no fun anymore. Right? But anyway, we're going to channel how a user does this. So we're going to quantify the parts that actually physically require these people. We're only going to present information that they actually need and channelize how they interact with the system and measure it. All of it. How do we measure that stuff? We provide a dashboard with a set of reporting tools you can design any way you want. It's not just history data. It can be pointed to almost any data source in the organization you so choose. The manager chooses to find it interesting for some kind of report. KPIs and key performance indicators. If he's measured on stuff by the board, he's going to turn around and measure you to make sure you're meeting his targets, right? That rolls down the hills. You get these really beautiful things. Now, if we back up and how did this stuff all get here? The things, this is one of the examples right here. This was an acquisition we did from a company in Spain called Polymedia. You might have heard about it. And that's directly what they have. Data modeler, I let you showed you the product has also. These user interfaces and design tools and stuff come out of the product. This is drag and drop GWT stuff. Really nice. Really nice. Very simplistic. I'll show you that later if you like.
Yeah. Can any emails be generated with those
Absolutely.
stats and on a regular intervals or?
However you want to set that stuff up. You can export those things.
I mean, not manual intervention, automatically on a regular interval it generates this.
These, yeah.
stat.
So when you set up your reports and stuff, they're scanning basically to the set up the interval. How much do you want to scan?
And it shoots out to the disk email destroy provide.
You can set up what you would like. You can make a process to deal with that in some special way. If you so wish, it's exportable. Whatever you want to do. Any more questions? Now you know all you need to know. Rules, events, processes. It's very easy here. It gets a little bit more complicated. But this is something I came up with for the students that I have and stuff are trying to be information analysts. They never coded probably. They're interested in all their job stuff. So how do you bring the concept of inference engine? How does the rules engine work? How does it get stuff done? Well, I'm lucky with you guys. Inference, you guys know what that means, right? It's English language, not so hard to get to foreign countries and stuff. It's a little interesting to try to explain stuff like this. So pictures work really well. When you talk about rules, you have a couple of things. You have data, facts, you have knowledge, which we put into rules, and you need to be able to infer stuff. So if we take our head, we have rules inside there, right? A bunch of stuff in here that lets us decide stuff. If we give it a fact, is that enough to infer something, to make a decision about what's going on? Not really. It's not quite enough yet. If we add one more, now it's possible for us to make maybe one more fact that we can decide. This is exactly how a rules engine works. Give it a rules package, give it some facts based on the objects you design, you fill them with data and put it in the rules package, take the engine, fire all the rules. Shuffles through that stuff, and I'll show you how that works in a second. What is a rule? When then, if then, most programmers have no problem with this whatsoever. You have conditions, or left-hand side, so when is also called sometimes the left-hand side. When conditions are met, then the actions are taken. And that's the right-hand side. The left-hand side, right-hand side. Give it the facts. If the facts match the conditions, the variables you gave, if they match that, you can perform the action. That tends to be modifications to facts. Once you modify the facts, that means we've got to reshuffle and rethink which will in what order. It's going to get really complicated really fast. As I said, we have production memory with rules, like solids, things we recorded and put into our system. We have on-the-fly stuff we're doing in our application and filling out facts and just throwing them in memory together. You give it to the inference engine, which uses it's a Reti OO. Actually, there's a new one you put together called Freak. I would maybe saw something about that. Doesn't really matter. It goes beyond this presentation. There's a pattern matcher inside there, and he makes an agenda. Agenda is nothing more than a to-do list like you have at home. It just depends on the people. And just one after the other, which rules, takes them one off the top, fires it, matches left to right. So chooses to modify stuff, throws the whole agenda away, makes a new agenda, grabs one off the top. What is exactly happening here? We have our rules. They get parsed. Rules, rule language. We have rule bases and working memory. These are sessions. As a programmer, you're going to create a session. You're going to do this once. You're going to make hundreds of these and throw them away and redo them. And if it fails, you just do it again. These are really cheap, really fast. I'm talking about really fast. Right? This is not any kind of performance issue whatsoever on these things. So you put those together, and you get this cloud of stuff, and you start doing all this matching, right? It's going to make an agenda with an activation, which involves a rule and whatever facts match left-hand side of the conditions, right? You know this one's going to fire. Another one. And he's smart enough to, I mean, you can steer it a little bit. There's some stuff inside the rules that allow you to match and say this one first, this one second. Try not to do that. That will degrade performance, makes you think you're smarter than this engine. Why are you using the engine if you tell it to go 1, 2, 3 this order? It's kind of silly. So don't do that. And then he gets to a point, he says, fire all rules, and he goes bang, and he changes whatever that fact is going to change, and he wipes it out. He does this all again, builds up a new agenda, fires the first one. Eventually, it's going to be nothing worth modifying and match. You're done. It comes back. Easy. Very easy. Any questions?
You get conflicts among different rules. Say you have like a logical error where maybe 2 rules would
Like looping and stuff?
I'm sorry? Well, yeah, I can see how you get a loop in this.
Not called no looping.
Okay. But I guess, would it be, well, so if you have, like, say, several rules which match a set of facts, then the rules will be executed in arbitrary order, or the actions on the rules.
It's not arbitrary. There's always an agenda. There's always a 1, 2, 3, 4 order.
It always comes.
He's going to decide which one of those 3 is important. That one first.
So there is some preset of things that we can able to look into that and we can able to configure. When you are talking about earlier, there is there are some certain rules on financial side or whatever. So we are going to take something from them, or we define our own rules.
Basically, you make your own rules. Right?
So there is no kind of certain guidelines or system that we need to follow to build those rules.
Just for requirements.
Okay.
But they're going to tell you if this happens, you got to do that.
Okay.
Pretty much like your program now.
So in addition to that, the previous question, like for example, like in a programming language, if certain things happen, then it happens. The if-else condition. For example, if we have a multiple if-else condition, if it matches that, the bottom one is going to override. Does it happen in the same way here as well?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Like
you have a rule and you have a solution, and there is one more element because of manual entry or manual feed. You again added one more rule of the same and with a different outcome. So the second one is going to override your first one.
That's up to the engine to sort out.
Okay.
It's kind of hard to let go, but that's what you're doing. You're going to see, if you turn off no looping, for example, and lots of stuff looped, that's not good. If you've done testing on this stuff, we were talking about that in the GUI, you have the ability as a user of the GUI to also write test against it. Not unit tests and code coverage, but they are exercising your rules. So, for example, if I have something that has to do with bus passes, right, for college students, up to the age of 16, you're a minor, you have a certain fee. Once you graduate school, you're now an adult, now you have to do a different price. So there'll be some kind of timer running that looks this stuff up, right? And you want to change the rule set at the time that timer goes off. So the fact you have in memory needs to be replaced. So it's going to go through this stuff and figure it out. And you can do tests on this stuff above the age, below the age for this rule and see what happens. It's accurate, right? That prevents you, because after you get 10 rules in a rule set, or maybe the last version you don't remember or don't know, when you come back later, you don't know, just like a program, you don't know why do we write tests? Why do we run through Jenkins to make sure we don't break other projects, things like that. It's the same idea with these. It's something you must teach them to do. You can't just throw them out there and you write tests. And if you want to get even more intense, you go on the developer side when they're done, you pull them out and you write unit tests against this. And it's, in the BRMS 5.3 stuff, we had analyzing tools to tell you if you're missing positives or negatives. You kind of scan it and tell them, hey, you got to test it that it does match, but you're not testing that it's not matching. You know what I mean? So we go back and write another test. There's wizards that guide you through this stuff based on the object and the rules that you find that you pull down. It's really easy to do. Nothing wrong about this system. Okay.
Eric, with concurrency, let's say I'm working. There's a foul up and person A is working on your record, person B also works on your record. So here and there's 2 facts, same person. but you're in two different sessions, so the rules would work
Yeah.
independently.
Yeah.
And we both get back hopefully the same answer.
Oh.
Okay.
I hope you
But
test
there
this
are
before
two
you put it in production. You know what I'm saying? You're gonna figure it out. It's nothing different than the way you code. It's just you're externalizing this stuff. And for the people working in the tool, we try to make it a little bit more wizard guided and DSL to specific language, stuff like that. So you don't have willy-nilly making stuff they don't understand. You know? And they're going to commit it. So okay, I'm done. And you're going to run your stuff into your app against it. It's not going to work.
Can it take the data, the facts from the SQL database?
You can get them anywhere you want. Hibernate, for example, is a mapping from an object to a database and back. So update to the back, the object you're using gets updated.
Speaking of that, can you incorporate this BRMS in the existing web app?
Absolutely. One of the things we're working on, you see quite a bit, is it's called an execution server. So I have 2 posts on my site. If you look up architectural deployments, BRMS, my name, or something like that, you find them right away on Google. Excuse me. They have to do with the various ways to deploy this. So one of the things is also embedding it with execution server. I discussed that in some pictures. We can see the BPM engine, to be able to embed that, to be able to embed rule stuff in OSGI on different containers. It's coming in 6 months for our fusion there. So the OSGI. You don't want to deploy the rules dependencies in every single module you push out. You want to put one module out and use it. Make sense? Instead of drawing a big thing on the board, I'm referring you to
Yeah, cool.
to an article. Got it covered.
Great.
Anything else? We can look at some of the architecture stuff. Again, I've already said it. I said it like 2-3 times. I want this to sync. We have the BRMS with the rules and events, and it's a subset, or BPM is a superset with process and events. So we ignore the stuff on the outside. The core stuff here is we'd love to see you run an EAP. This is one of the products we have, and BPM, we don't care what container you run it on. It's just a different support model. Get commercially acceptable support from WebSphere containers or Oracle containers, things like that. So it is possible. It's based on JVM. You have 3 things in here. You have the rules, the events, and something called the Business Resource Optimizer. That's off the plan project, if you guys know what that is. It's not just doing like roster planning for nurses or things like that. It's also for load balancing cloud instances with workloads. Container ships, if you give it funky sized boxes and big square containers, brown boxes, triangular boxes, you'll optimize the space. This all comes from contests and stuff that we have on this stuff. It's really cool.
If you have multiple servers and load balancers, will it work? I mean, you have defined on every box.
There's a demo online in the cloud. You can look on my website too. We have running with the guy who lives in Belgium. Very nice kid that does this stuff. It's currently tech preview in here. But it's going to be in the next version fully supported. Just posted something. He's going to talk about it at the Belgium JUG or Brussels JUG. I don't know which one. Coming up pretty soon. If you contact him, he'll gladly come into one of your sessions and give you all kinds of stuff. Really neat stuff. On top of that, we have rules authoring tooling, data model tooling, and the asset management. So like uploading jars and things like that.
You're not saying you have to deploy EAP. You're just saying it comes with.
No, we prefer to see that.
Okay.
You have to have a container of some form.
Oh, it doesn't come bundled into.
Well, what we're doing with this is with an installer that does the EAP.
Oh.
It feels bundled. But we also have the ability to download it as deployable. So you unzip it on top of an EAP like you used to do. You also have a generic bundle, and that's for the other containers. Unzip that. Okay. So what's behind this? You have a development repository. So the developer tooling is basically all the same stuff in Eclipse that you see in GUI. So it's all existed previously. It's still there. So process rules designer, wizard, all those kind of things, bugging stuff. What's in between is a Git repository. So that's what's backing, which means round tripping is really easy both ways. But the idea is more so that I think the developer is assisting the business person with the rules and stuff more so than you hijack his project. This project is supposed to work, build, and deploy, and it creates a Maven artifact, which then goes into the deployment repository. So when you build and deploy your project, you get some jar that goes out there as a dependency, and you hope in your application you just depend upon this artifact. That's it. So in an ideal world, now no longer have to deal with this garbage. You can put it by the business unit. All you're going to do is focus on getting the application done. Right? So over time, I mean, it might be new in an organization, takes a little bit, but once the business users get rolling, get used to that, and know what they're doing, developing rules or whatever, at least when they get them deployed, looking the best decision, right? What does it look like when it's out there? We have a rules engine, an event processing engine, which needs some kind of feed. Business data we give to it, client applications make calls in there and say, hey, what's going on? Behind it is the repository, authoring tools in the GUI, authoring tools for the ID. Pretty easy, right? People always asking about what's backing all this stuff. Git repository, UberFire framework for all the tooling that they're using in the dashboard. Jules project covers all this stuff. The Opera Planner is a sub-project that business resource.
What's your
UberFire. Presented here not too long ago, right? Yeah, you're right. Well, Jonathan. Yeah, so Jonathan. Right? URI and all that. Core project that's behind UberFire. Yeah, good.
When you say Git repository, does it mean it's talking outside to the?
It includes one in here, a local Git repository.
Okay.
But you can configure it to point to something in your.
No, we want it to be localized.
That's configurable. Same thing with the build when you do the Maven. I mean, by default, when you unzip it on your machines, using your local settings. That's putting your local by
the
default.
toolkit? UI toolkit? UberFire?
Yeah. BPM suite. That looks really shaky. Like, holy my God, what's going on here? Same business rules. Same events, same business optimizer. There's just a process engine and a task server. I think that's scary. You have more tooling. You still have the rules tooling. You still have the data modeling. You still have the business estimate. You have user form design, process modeling. Drop pictures.
One comment associated with that, and that is that when a rule system is running and it's constantly in use, how do you deploy new rules? I mean, do you have to wait for the equivalent of a drain almost of what's happening right now, or how do they interact with each other, new versions versus what's in? I guess similar to the question was asked earlier.
In the workshop, so his was a process specific question. So a second. Yours is on the rule side. So we were talking about build and deploy. You know how to do package goes up. How do I know that package is there? You look in the workshop for the cool store. Inside that is a scanner. It's called everything in the API is KIE. Change it to knowledge is everything. KIE scanner. KIE this, KIE that. We say key. Key scanner. Not key like in the door, but KIE. So the key scanner has been set up in that web app to scan the repository. You can set it up to scan for a specific version only. You can set it up to scan for only released versions, so major numbers. I've got it set up for the latest. Doesn't matter what you build and deploy, if you bump the number up above the last whatever he has, you'll pick it up within 10 seconds, and that will be a rule set. So the next person that touches that app and makes a rule call, after he picks up the new one, gets the new one. The old one already used the old one. If you're in the middle of your shopping experience and I turn on free shipping, all of a sudden you're going to get free shipping. The next thing you add is cart.
Can you revert it back to the older version?
Not in this case, no. All right, turn it on and off. Yes.
Can you back up a slide?
Yes, I can.
The interaction between the event processor and the rules engine and the client out there?
Yeah.
Yeah, just can you talk a little bit about that?
Let's use the workshop thing here. So we have the web app out here. This is the shopping cart. Out here, every time I do add a product to the cart, I'm kicking off a rule flow. This is a process and it's only rule tasks. So you're going to see in the VRMS product a process design, the whole process design. use cases for that subscription are not supported with tasks. Don't have a task, you can't make task forms, so you shouldn't be able to do that. But you can do script tasks, service tasks, things like that. That's not supported in that product, but you can design them. It's not going to execute very well on the user. So what he's done here is every time I add something, he's kicking off that process, and each step in that process is a rule call. So he's going to get his data together, which is probably the shopping cart and the item I added, the prices, whatever it is. He submits that in here to the rules engine and says, hey, what's going on? Right? He comes back with an answer. He says, oh, the shipping should be $2.99. So he'll set it in the shopping cart.
Yeah, so what's the event process?
The event process is, in this case, every time I add something. So I've made it watch for an event. I call that a stream. This engine uses the rules over time. So when I do a call in like that, he's going to say, okay, something happened this time frame. Everything matches on the left-hand side of that rule. So now do what it does. See? I know. That's nice. Feel free to dig into the code. It's in there. Okay. It's not really complicated. So back to this. We have the rules authoring, we have the data modeling, we have the business asset management, we have the use forms, and process modeling. Inside the process modeling, we can also do process simulation. So when I'm all done, I add a dollar value to, or I tell it it's going to be dollars, euros, or whatever it's going to be. I can do each step. I can quantify a time it takes to go through this step. I can give it an amount it costs to do this step. If it's a task, I can assign how many hours is worked on this task in a day, assign resources, 3 people, 8 hours a day. Think of a retail app or something in that process, where at Christmas time, stuff triples, quadruples between, I don't know, last 2 weeks of Christmas. What's that mean for my process for getting stuff done? So if I go from 1,000 a day to 30,000 a day, you're going to see in the simulation it's all going to pile up behind that. So if I double the number of people working, is that enough to get stuff shipped by Christmas? This kind of, right? Gives you a chance to play with stuff. People also look at this and ask questions around, what about historical data? Is that simulation? Can I feed it historical data? In the sense, yes, but we don't do it through the simulation. This is meant to do kind of static offline stuff. I have examples in the mortgage demo and also in the loan demo. I probably should put it in some of the other ones, but those are a little bit more complicated. But what you're doing is you're taking a list of predefined things. You hit a jar that I've made for that. You just kick it off. It shoots in these entries. It's like a preloaded thing, right? So maybe 100 processes or whatever you want to put together. So you can take historical data and feed it to one of these things. Just shoot them in at the front end when it's running. And it'll fill up your reporting really nice. It'll fill up all your human tasks. It'll give you an idea of what happened, trace what's going on that way. Not the same thing as simulation. What's also included in simulation is the colorizes or gives you the ability to see all possible paths through this thing. You can select that path, just colorize that path. See the blue path, that kind of stuff. Once you've executed or built and deployed your process within the product itself, he will display the user task forms. And we keep them really simple for the demos because most people, most organizations have some kind of UI, whatever the heck it is in their organization that they present to their customers or present to their intranet, a component model, or way it's kind of look. All they're doing is embedding the task information inside those forms. We present just the task information. Maybe I'll put a little HTML type at the top, but that's about it. It's all CSS, HTML5, and that kind of stuff. We generate for our task server sort of a template in XML that we can generate these forms from. And of course, in the future, you want to give those templates to your app, and all it does is ask the server to generate them. You can build them yourself and include them, or you can embed that stuff with the REST API. Once it's running, you have the process manager where I can go look at my definitions that have been deployed. I can start instances. In an instance, I can have tasks that are running, go into them, call up the forms, process them, and watch it all happen. Inside the instances, you can look at the picture, like that I showed for the ones that were here on time, the completed model. It'll run and gray out where it's at, and a red box around the task where it's waiting to do something. It also lets you look at all the variables. When it's completely completed, you can look at the variables over time, how they changed. On the fly, if they're running, you can edit them, change them. Not a good thing to do, but you need to fix something somebody did wrong. Be careful with that. Messing with the process. On top of that, we have the activity monitoring, BAM, that's called BAM. That's a dashboard that allows you to look at two different views. One of them is the history of the task and the process and the running and what's happening currently and what's happened in the past. That's nothing more than querying the internal BPM tables. Keep track of that data. Those are not modifiable, but you get what we give you out of the box. On the other side, you have a business dashboard where you're allowed to design whatever you want. There's two examples, and they're really extensive.
What's the minimal environment that you've seen for a runtime situation? Meaning that you've got I know you've got to have a container with JVM.
My laptop.
But I was wondering if you had, just as a simplest example, like embedded sensors around the house and you wanted to have rule-based systems for environmental controls or security or something like that, would you see it as a conceivably plug computing type situation, or would it literally have to be and I know that's an open-ended thing in terms of...
I've seen them, I think the Chris Verlana, the lead developer on this, also in Belgium, he put it on his Android. That's pretty embedded.
Yep.
I don't know if anybody's done a Raspberry Pi, but it wouldn't surprise me. We've got EAP on it.
That's what I was wondering. Anything if you could run EAP on it.
But we're talking about taking not the whole product.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, right. Just execution.
Stuff, yeah, much smaller. There are use cases in the States here. Some telco that did like preliminary diagnostics on something remote in the field, like these little, like I want to say router, but I don't know if that's the right word. So imagine you have like routers all over the place. Normally it would fail if you send a guy out to tweak on the box or whatever. They would run through a process that would do some things and try to reset it. That failed. You still got a router. It stops 20% of those service calls you're saving. Right, that's the idea. So how embedded that was, I don't know. I don't know what the absolute minimum is.
Yep.
Especially when you're talking about how big is your rule set and all these kind of stuff. EAP on a Raspberry Pi, that does work. So.
Is this compatible with JBoss 5 or 5? Which version of EAP it's compatible with?
Both of these products in the 6 series right now run on 6.1 EAP. The 6.03 release is on the way, and that's going to be, I think, 6.3. I'm not sure which one. I've heard rumblings like 6.32, but I'm checking what's going on right now. What's the most interesting is the focus with these new products. Now, need to align to all these other products. So we have Fuse compatibility, which I was talking about, the OSTI stuff. Discovering on when there wasn't compatibility requirements for releases, you have a little bit different. I think that's a Camel or something like that. They took and rules one that's not compatible with what we're doing. You know what I mean? Things like that would be kind of funky. They're also talking to the Fuse Service Works guys with the switch charge stuff, and also aligning some of the stuff with that. So they have some BPM in there, some rules in there. It's all going to work together. The idea is that you want to have your products work even better together than somebody else. It has not held us back in any way, shape, or form in the sense that from Fuse you can do a service call and wrap a Fuse endpoint web service and make a call from Fuse. That's separation of concerns is a very normal architecture, so that's been thought of from the beginning. But the EAP stuff, I know that always lags. EAP is the first thing we release. So they're at 6 something now, and it'll be for a whole release cycle of the other products to catch up. Rules, events, now we have a process engine. Things get more complicated, right? I mean, it looks more complicated in the sense that you're positioning it like the story I did on the front end, talking about lines of business, third-party stuff, service calls, God knows what you're going to be interacting with. Complete Java layers that talk, for example, to a mainframe. That's what we had. It can be anything. Business data and events is the same. We now have a BAM that's going straight to users, to whatever you want to provide. Managers, anybody can be digging into this stuff. Same story, both sides. What's behind all this? So the JBPM project, also part of the Jules project, it's all under one big umbrella. They call it Jules repository, where it's all in. This is not just one simple project. These are about, they're the same, if you go look in there, there's a lot of projects on the rule side, there's a lot of projects on the BPM side. Some of them are incubation, some of them being used, some are not used in the product itself. It's all going to be integrated. Go try to put all this together yourself, and you see why people like products that are stable and working well. This is no longer being shown that way, but we used to probably need to think it's an idea, an acquisition where this came from. This is all built down in Spain, by the way. Most of the guys, well, they're all over the place, but most of them are in Europe. Most. I got a couple of friends working in this, 2 in Belgium. Yeah, it's 1 in Poland, 1 in Holland. All of it. There's 1 in the US. The BP Sim, for the simulation stuff, I'd like to mention that. That's a standard that's coming out behind the BP2 stuff. We also want to standardize the simulation, basically added to your process definitions. So that's being pushed. Sim. And that's how it's designed. You know, most of our stuff, we'd like to keep it standards based in one form or another. And the data model that forms designer, that was also for the problem. Very nice interfaces. That's it. That's your primer coding of rules, events, and processes. I'm not an expert. I'm going to tell them too when I get back. You can call them anytime. They don't know. So now the idea is, even if you don't do it tonight, go home, these things are online, you take your own time. They're really fun, not hard. One step by step, you learn a lot. It's very visual what you're doing. It's very hands-on what you're doing. It's a nice product to work with. I'm not bored yet. I've been doing it 5 years. Fantastic. I was looking for
What's the difference? There are some other tools like for example, BizTalk, the Comex was using big time BizTalk.
Who? BizTalk.
Yeah, BizTalk, Comex was using. And what exactly like BPM, JBPM is differentiating other market providers like BizTalk or any other tools in it.
The sales pitch is right behind you. See how I did that?
Yeah.
You're basically talking about like a sales pitch. I want to do that in a second.
No, I mean technical perspective.
Technical perspective. Well, I mean, the things that I would like to say, one, it's open source.
Okay.
Number 2, you're talking about standards based. The whole idea is everything we do is JEE and standards. That elevates also into these standards, not just the low-level stuff. Everything we're going to interact with is fully portable in the sense of Java protocols interact with EAP. That's why this one is also very pluggable with all the other containers. As long as they're JEE certified, then it should work. Don't do anything funky down into our engine that might. What did it used to be? Or we used to do something really, really ugly inside of the JVM to make it read go really fast, right? As soon as you unplug that JVM and did some other database, it was like a toilet. You were doing something straight into the product. We don't do that ever. And when things get implemented for the first time, it might take a bit to get it all covered in specification, but we're glad to hear from you any kind of bug, or missed something, or did it wrong, or it's not working. And it happens. I remember when we had SEML 2, the tokens authorizations. I had a customer back then on an SA, and something they were trying to do wasn't even implemented yet, so it was like hitting this thing breaking all the time. Come around, go back, oh yeah, missed that, feature, fix it, push it out as a patch, fix the customer. When you use our stuff, you get a subscription and not a license. You don't care what version you use as long as you have a subscription. If you're looking at a window of a year, maybe 2 years, 3 years, you use whatever you want. Upgrade, downgrade, we don't care.
Significantly less.
I don't, we're not supposed to say that, but yeah,
It is true.
huge. Pricing's been wonderful for us. But I've stopped. When I started 5 years ago, it was 2,100 people. I think we're almost 7,000 now. That's a big difference. It was for the year, but. What? I have no idea, and I refuse to answer that question while I'm on tape. No, that was just something that I ran into one time. It's the only one I personally know, so I'll talk about it. exit or something. But I think that's really something we do all we can not to do. There will be no proprietary stuff as much as we can. But at least we say that. I mean, if you catch us at it, I'm sure we'll fix it.
What's the most complicated architecture you've seen?
Oh, God. Probably every time you come in someplace where they thought they were going to do this on open source stuff, get away from it. Complete serious enterprise architecture with open source chunks all over the place. And all it takes is the next set of products that come through that require an upgrade of one component, and you develop also, I'm sure you've all seen heads on it. So those are the nightmares. Places where they don't want to do an ESP, but they implement their own, have to get a bunch of services going. Find
What was that
out.
last time again? What did you say?
Places that don't want to use, architect sets that don't, architectural teams that say no ESP in this organization for some reason. Weird things like that. So then they're developing a service layer. What is an ESP? So you're now doing your own custom code to manage all that stuff, all versions, things like that. Still, it comes back to because they chose to use some trees or whatever. A lot of patchwork. Remember the old days of spring? That was a really good example. Somebody sneaked in one little bit of spring and then it snowballed into this huge thing in your organization and everything's in a big fire. Stuff like that. Yes.
Three quick questions.
Three.
Well, quick ones. So, so is there a security and authorization built into this?
Yeah. I mean, it's leveraging everything on EAP. When you're talking about also like high availability and stuff, the repository itself is in Git. These are standard things in the development organization. Have already been implemented with complete rollouts for governance and stuff. Look at the Mavenizing of stuff. That's a normal way of working. So.
Next, we need to do a project on this, like 4 different groups. When the first group finishes its activities, then immediately the second group should be eventually. They need to be informed, hey, the first group has completed their tasks, so you need to take that. So it has to go through all the 4 groups. So we can do that in this BPM, right?
Sure.
And then it generates the stats also, like how long the file is in each group state.
Yeah, we can do that. So, what's up?
Then the last one is if you have a chain of level, like you have 4 level approval levels.
Yeah.
So first level they approve that, then it goes to the next level, and so on.
Yeah.
Is the emails and the way the email body content is formed, we can do all that in this.
I'm going to point you directly at something that does that. This one right here. Oops. That one doesn't work. Let me see. Something spelled wrong. I got a typo or something. That's all that is. This is for governance. Guess I better.
Just like you.
Yeah. Ain't he pretty? So nobody's clicked on that link apparently, and all the time I've had it before. I think I spelled it wrong here. But what this
Have you
is,
checked your pull requests?
Yeah. So what we have here is, let's see it here. So the idea being that you've developed something, and when you hit build and deploy, it now goes into this. And what we have here is a predefined development environment, a Q&A, a stage, a production environment. So as you see, I've hit build and deploy. It goes into here. It updates the Meetup, and this has to do with an SRAM repository, another standard for governance repository. Sending an email to notify whoever is in charge at this level. It's an email with a link to the governance tooling of us, SRAM and the DT, design time and runtime governance. It gives a link, goes in there, and it's basically a human task. It's been set up. That's this one right here. It's approve or deny this thing. And most of the time, before you dump it in here, you've done your Jenkins, your testing, and all that kind of stuff. So we passed everything. We're ready to try to promote this. But somebody's in charge of whether it goes to the next one or not. Basically, you can redesign this process any way you want. Right? This is just the one out of the box. So if it passes, it goes on and it gets dumped into the next level, preferably Jenkins and all that too, and then you're going to go through all this stuff and do the next thing. If it fails, it dies here, and it won't. And it doesn't. So what you end up with, and the way I've got it set up in that demo is that it's on a file system. So in the temp directory, you make the dev directory. It could be a Mavenized thing, it could be whatever it is. I just dump it in a new directory each time. So you see that if it passes, there's a copy here, and then all of a sudden there's a copy here. If it fails, this copy won't happen, but this one's still here. It's actually marching it through the system. So it's exactly what you're describing. It's a very normal way to use governance for your artifacts. And you can, we have it set up so that it does the complete thing, but you can do individual pieces. So smart enough with, we call these knowledge jars. So when you build this, it's called, you'll see it referred to as a K jar. The physical thing is just a jar. Talk about a knowledge jar to differentiate. But he is smart enough in our tooling to know what a K jar is, unpack it, and see if it rules, processes, decision tables, things like that. So it puts them all out and you can do individual artifact searches.
So at QA level, like somebody didn't test it, it's just sitting idle. Can we put an event timer on it? Hey, but for 1 week it doesn't happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Not in this one, but I mean, it's just a matter of the tool.
And the reminder goes out and things like that.
When do you see the BPM suite cartridge going into OpenShift?
So I've been in there for a long time.
Not in the enterprise.
Right. Not support.
Okay.
It's an alpha thing. They're talking about next year. Probably summertime.
Are they waiting for EAP7 or something like that?
No. They're, it's about the XPass story. So BPM Pass, iPass, APass, all these things. Platforms of service is number one, fully supported. Two is the iPass, coming very shortly.
So,
yeah. And that's also data virtualization and iPass. Then you have probably the BPM business. I don't know, I'm not in charge of it. Who believes what they do is going to happen in 6 months? It's kind of a long way. So it's like, okay, mental note, that's coming. But no promises. So I would assume something's coming out of next summer. Okay. And the big announcements. So if you're really curious, wait a few months, ask me again. I'll see what I end up.
So you need to buy this BPM separately than the EAP? Or it comes
with the
EAP?
BRMS subscription, you get an EAP subscription, so that's included. This governance is also included. It's a separate download, but it's also included.
You got an EAP, so we're upgrading it. So
Do that.
well, with that, we don't
Just
get
teaching that.
whether we get this or not.
Whether you get this or not. Okay. If you go to the jboss.org/product/BRMS, you'll also notice, and this is part of the developer program we're doing, there will be a version available there to download and play with, and it's a product. It's not a community piece. The vision behind that, it doesn't apply to our product because this is brand new. So we went a little further than we're going to in the future. Normally what will happen is you'll get an installer download or access to 6.0 version, 6.0.0, and that's it. Won't upgrade any further. The product will. We go to 601, 602, 6, whatever it does. But when it hits 6.1, that'll be the next one that shows up. Right now, I think it's a 6.01 installer or something. That's the last one they put in. So I didn't use the installer, but I did use that version. If you look at my demos in the history, you can go get that version, find the one I have, grab that tag, and you can use all my demos. So I will always have one version that works from now on with whatever's available there. If it doesn't call me on it, maybe I just forgot, and I'll go back and fix it. It's very easy to fix. Those init scripts at the very top, I'm pretty good developing. I have global variables at the top, and just change the name of the product. Script should run. So it's straightforward. Any more questions? Anybody doing the workshop? Good.
So if you want to start as a beginner, like want to check the Java JV background, so do we have enough
Yes.
guidelines or like
The
support
workshop.
online?
Really, yeah. They're meant for non-developers to really just do what I tell you to do, and it's going to happen. Yeah. I tried to bring them down to that level. Not to insult your mind or something, because people don't know. I insulted you. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I did? Dumb it down, yeah. But I mean, that's the whole thing behind these demos too. When you go to install them, they all look the same. You download, add products, hit the init. This has an exception here that you need to add something. It's a password to the Maven thing because you're trying to deploy into the Maven artifact thing. So when you do a deploy, you have to have the password to log in. But other than that, it's always run on. If you find, and I see this one only has init sh, if the project only has init sh, doesn't have that. I need to change that. But some of them don't, and it's because I have a North American consultant that has a Windows machine. You can't imagine how hard it is to get my organization. Yeah, you don't have that. You have Macs, we do have. I don't have a virtual machine. I don't care about Windows. I don't know anything about Windows, so there's no point in having me. I try to find somebody that wants to make the scripts. But just copy in the shell script and make sure it works. I think they do. So.
Actually, I think you might have a typo in one.
Oops. See, yeah. You filed your first bug report.
Verbal pull request.
Yeah.
Fix it, whatever.
Well, no, it looks like for one of them, instead of BPMS, it's BRMS or vice versa.
That could be.
It's just it looks like it was between the two projects, just copy and paste.
Now I can blame myself. Okay, so if you poke me on that, I'll fix it.
Okay, sure. It's not big, but for the sake of people running here,
Right.
I've been trying to.
I mean, for other people too that are downloading, please do tell me.
Sure.
Do poke it, not tell me now, send me an email or something.
Sure.
Where can I put that on? There's my email. Bigger. Yeah. Really easy, I guess. My whole thing is about making this stuff easy to use, easy to explore, easy to play with. Right? When I started out 5 years ago, when I was in SA, I was the first one in the Benelux, and there was none of this. So you got on these calls, you had to go make something. Right? I got tired of that. When they finally hired me for this, I've been doing it about 3 years. I had enough in my pocket. It was almost finished, but you don't quite have enough time because you're running on to the next customer. That's not how it is. So I sat down and like within the first 3 weeks, published 6 or 7 of these things. So I was like, boom, 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 boom. Like, geez, where'd you get all this? Yeah, I'm sure every essay has it. If you guys have anything cool you've done, anything at all, I'll tell you the same thing I tell my essays. And I've done it with people outside of our company. One of the partners, Bull in Romania, he's responsible for the generic loan. So he was doing something, didn't know exactly how to bring it out into the world, but he had something that worked. That's all I need. Want me to get things somewhere, and I'll make it pretty and make it famous. And it goes when you start it up. Share. Doesn't do anybody any good when it's on your laptop and nobody can use it, right? And that's for your company too. Pulling the repository, clone the repository, take it off with you. I don't care. I would be.
One of the, I wouldn't even call it criticism, issues, is that a lot of these demos and stuff are not federal government related, like mortgage companies and stuff like that. You've got an IRS and other things.
Give me a story.
Yeah, so give
I
me a
don't
story.
have a government story.
Okay, okay.
You can even just mock it up.
Yeah, yeah, I love the work with that, sure.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. Timing issue and stuff. Is how much time I got, for example, 2 things going on right now. One is we have a demo center in Europe and UK somewhere where they want to. It's really nice. It ties into our sales activities. Spin up a demo for a customer or for an SA. It's working on an opportunity. Right now, you create crap and run out. Right? Nobody knows what you're doing unless you go log it into the CRM stuff. But if you do that, it's attached to an opportunity. Then you, okay, he did a demo at this stage. He did that demo at this stage. You could also stage it for a partner so he can log in and work. So they want to spin it up on OpenShift and all that stuff right internally. So I'm going over there to sit down with them and help them out with some of that stuff. They have stuff that they've developed, but it's not quite, there yet. The second one was I ran into somebody that does our help desk stuff, Rob. He wants to sell BPM internally to automate some of this stuff. A lot of it's not automated. Yeah, and so I was like, that we can just really, so we sat down and did, I actually pointed my laptop, had the white screen, and we did this whole drawing, and he was looking at it, talking, and telling me stuff, and I was just drawing the process and kind of modeling some stuff. And he got all excited at the end. And I said, well, this will take me about an hour to put it into the suite, but what's behind it? What do you want to see? What are we trying to demonstrate? They have interaction with some kind of telco thing. That's a web service apparently. I'm like, okay, so I'll pick up a web service. They want some rules, and what we're doing is we're filtering the caller when he comes in. It's really silly. It's the first step along a series of, I hope, help desk stories, right? Telco stories. I need a story. A demo is boring when it's just technology. It needs to be a story. So, mortgage is a story. A cool story is a story. That's, you know what I mean? It's something you can kind of rattle on about way of talking. And, it's really hard to sit down and try to draw up a process of one. You know, fantasy football, like that one. That's pretty cool. That he's working on. That's kind of neat. It's just hard to come up with something. And also on the BRMS side, when it's hard to visualize this. You need some kind of web app on the front end that uses the rules. Right? How do you visualize that stuff? Yeah. So who's done with the labs?
Homework.
How far are you? Sorry? There you go. What's really funny is if you look at the BRMS one, I did that on a different technology. I don't like how it looks. So JS later. So I have a guy that needs to do this next week in Johannesburg. SALR has got to do this big demo and all this workshop stuff. He goes, I really love your stuff. I want it to look like that. I said, well, go ahead. He's over doing it. He's got the first 8 already done. He's going to get back. So they'll be prettier soon. I'm never going to do it, but it's awesome. Some JBoss technology. Looks really nice. Yeah. Well, Dutch too. Yeah, no, but he's not rewriting that. He's just migrating it into this same pretty. You look at the other one. This doesn't look so nice as this. What is this? Reveal here. This is very lightweight.
For tutorial, it's killer.
The well, this whole thing will work offline. I can do it offline, but I didn't put all the images in the repository and point to those URLs, so the actual information is super light. It's like kilobytes or nothing. Just text. One file per lab, and that's it. It's not big at all. But if you want to go offline, you got to change all the links to the offline checked out repository that works well with the presentation. It's really nice. I say it's like it because it's all HTML and the images are there. You can just cut and paste stuff into presentations. You get the images through the presentation. Yeah. What everything? I got
It was a pleasure meeting you.
Yeah, it was nice to meet you guys too.
Yeah. I'm walking out now.
Is John Lewandowski here? Oh, John.
Grab whatever you want. I got cool
Oh,
stuff.
great.
What did he do to get that?
I walked out, I guess. Safe travels, sir.
You asked a ton of questions.
Appreciate it.
So once I covered this, how to take this laptop, like now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I mean, it's not running because office laptop is not allowing.
Okay, once you, well, come here, I'll show you. Are you off?
I was just about to, is there anything else you want to say at all? All right, I think we're closing up, and the video will be up on YouTube real soon.
So